Heck with it. Let's do this thing. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Murph Codes Python tutorial video. We're going to continue our discussion of user interfaces. However, today, probably going to be a little bit different. Probably going to be a little bit less about actually writing code and just a bit more how to make a user interface that's good. Also might be a very short video today. But let's get into it. Alright, so far our Cruddy Buddy interface looks like this. We can select the file, and it loads something there, which is fine. Our label has some spacing that our list box doesn't seem to want to incorporate. Now there's a few ways we can go about fixing that. We could either change the record box to a label, and as we know, labels seem to do the spacing, so that would probably work. We may have some luck changing the font of our list box, and that might allow us to incorporate spacing. Because it might just be that the font won't do it. Maybe changing to a monospace will allow those tab characters to be rendered properly. I don't know. I don't know which we're gonna go with, and we're actually probably not going to solve that today. Because today, we're gonna draw. That's right. Get out your crayons, get out your notebooks. And why are we drawing today? Because anytime you're gonna make a graphic user interface, the best thing you can do is start by drawing it out. You know, just how do you want it to look? What do you want it to do? Think about these things, and then draw it. Just draw it. When you're satisfied with your drawing, you'll know pixel placement for all of your stuff. You'll know how big you want to make things. And you'll have a visual. Now, you can use something as simple as paint. You can use something as complicated as GIMP if you want. A lot of web developers like to use Photoshop to draw out the website that they're about to create. I think that's a little bit of overkill. Photoshop comes with a very high price tag if you're not going to pirate it, and I don't recommend pirating. Because all it takes is for them to figure out how you're pirating it, fix it so that you can't do it that way anymore, and then you're out a critical piece of your software toolkit. Go with something that's free, cheap, and easy. If you're not a fan of Paint. This one is free. GIMP is also free, but a little more complicated to use. I haven't updated this in a while. Yeah, sure, we'll update that. So this is a bit more advanced than your standard Paint, obviously. For our purposes, we're just going to use this one. Now, boxes. We want boxes. Because darn near everything is a box. You know, I should have waited to do the update on that Paint program. Oh well. Okay. So start with just making yourself a title bar. And let's see. I have no idea what font that Windows is using for the title bar. Good enough. There we go. I mean, close enough. We don't have to be perfect here. We're just trying to make a facsimile of what our app is going to look like. Doesn't have to be spot on. I mean, neatness kind of counts, I suppose. Nice part about a lot of this, when you're designing an app in Paint, like everything you need to trying to resize it. Trying to move it. I should have just cut it. Yeah, let's just delete that. We'll just redraw it. Okay, now that's kind of what we're going for here. That's kind of what we have happening here. It's not exactly perfect, but it gives us an idea. All right. So what we want to do next is we want to open up our Credit Buddy app. All right, we want to look at our functions and just start figuring out what we want to do with these functions, how we want them to be accessible in our app. Much like in our text version of it, we have to open a file. We've already got the file open part. And it spits out the records. Now, the way we have it doing that isn't exactly perfect, but it's working. It's not the most flawless way because it doesn't properly space out stuff. And like I said, we may change that by turning that into labels. Or we might turn it into, or we might try like adjusting the font of that list box and see if one of those will fix it. That's another part about programming. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot of, well, let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. And a lot of the time, the thing you're trying to do won't work the way you expected it to. It'll work some other way. But anyway, we also have these options here. Now, we don't need to worry about quit. We have a way to quit our program already. You go up to File, Exit, boom, it's done. However, add a new record, update an existing record, delete an existing record, or deleting a file, that's going to be a bit different. Now, adding a record, it runs us through each of the fields. So it seems to me we're either going to want to add a whole bunch of fields here for our user to fill out, or we have to try to find a way to put the cursor in our list box, let the user type into the list box, and as they fill that in, that adds the record. Now, I don't know if that's actually a thing we can do with the list box. It might be. It also sounds like it might be kind of complicated. That should never deter us from looking into such an option. But the option we are familiar with already is entry boxes. Now, we're never truly sure what the number of fields we're going to have to deal with is going to be. We're going to assume that the users of this program are reasonable human beings and aren't going to fill it with just a billion fields and expect people to type in a million different entries every time they want to create a record, that would be insane. But we do want enough space that if they do decide to get a little carried away with the number of entries per record, that they have ample room for that. So we should probably consider a second window if they're going to add a record, and populate the second window kind of like a dialog box where it will ask the user for a data entry for each of the fields, which means it'll have to loop through and add a label and an entry box for each field, not counting the record number, obviously. So like our kittens file here, it would add a label for name, and then an entry box, a label for color, and an entry box, a label for fluffiness, and an entry box, onto this new window. And then it would present the new window to the user to fill in those things. So basically what we want to do is come up with a method for our top level widget to produce a new window that has the exact number of labels and entry boxes to match the header. However, we are forgetting one option here. What happens if we wanted to create a new file? Well, for that, we should probably create a second window. And we would want to take... we would probably want to make this a file entry. This is the other nice part about Paint. You can have as many of these as you want. Okay, so we've already got an idea for this one. I don't know why it keeps going to that. Must have been the last thing I saved as. I must have been tinkering around making the various splash screens and whatnot. I have no idea what I set for the other one. I can't remember. Alright, what do we want to call our second window here? This is for the adding a record, so... Boy, you know, it would make sense if I could actually read that, right? There we go. Okay. Add new record. Now we have no idea what the label will say, so we'll just put a default. Alright, and then some kind of nonsense here to let us know that this will probably repeat. Probably could have done that bigger. There we go. Whatever notation you decide to use to indicate to yourself that this will be a list that gets auto-populated, you'll want to do that. You'll want to develop some kind of thing there. For me, I just use these ellipses. I may even put in a little note here. There we go. Little note there to let me know what we're doing. What this means. Okay. We're not quite done though. We should probably have some kind of label and a button, right? There we go. Our user fills those in, clicks that, and it should add it to the file using our cruddy buddy function. So there's our add new record window. But we also realized we need... Who put that online? Was that me? Did I do that? It was probably me. And again, back to the X-Files 36. We're going with the system 12. And we'll go 14. That way we can read it. Okay. Create new file. Okay, so what are the steps to creating a new file? Well, first we gotta name it. And then we need a text box for the user to enter the file name. Now, there might be a dialog box in which we can create such a thing easily, but I can't foresee it being able to predict exactly what kind of format we need the file to be in. So unless it just has a UTF-8 text option, just creating our own little file dialog box here and then running the file writer function to create the file is probably going to be our best bet. Now, one thing we might want to do is we might want to have the file directory listed here. Maybe create a button here to change this. You know, just in case. I don't know if that's something we're gonna concern ourselves with too much. But, you know. For that, we would probably want to open, use the open file dialog, or open directory dialog, to change that. And here we should probably have a warning to our user. Okay. A little something something there, just a little warning. Let the user know, hey, if you do this, you run the risk of overwriting a file that may exist already. So, you know, double check yourself, make sure you're not doing something you shouldn't be doing. And then, of course, our button to actually commit the action. Now, you may recall whoop, I'm doing that wrong, aren't I? I am. There we go. I was in record, I was thinking I was in file. I don't think that wrote anything. No, didn't write anything. We didn't complete the record, so it didn't write anything. Okay. Now, when we create a file, I don't remember. Do we ask it? Do we ask the user if they're sure? Let's see here. Yes we do. We create, we do ask if they want to create the object. And there is an option here to cancel it. Because we do confirm. Now, how can we do that in our little program? We can make a little checkbox for them to click. And basically, if they don't, this button won't create the file. It won't be active. It'll just, I mean, it might close the window rather than create the file. And we can change the action of this button by whether or not this is clicked. You've seen how in the example program, checking the box can print something to the command line where it says, "Oh, check the box." Oh, you didn't. Instead of having it, you know, spit that line out, we can change the action of our submit button here, if we want to go that route. And basically, it's just a little safety, you know. We can always come back to that and change that later, so let's save that for now. Alright, what else do we have here? Update existing record, delete an existing record. Okay, creating a file, adding a record, I feel like these two, well, really, these three right here should be options down here. We should have some kind of selection. For the record. Then a couple of buttons here. There we go. Right? Alright, that gives us our options. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about the file? Well, I'm thinking we're going to add that to our file menu. So our file menu again with this. We're gonna have new. We're gonna have open. Save, maybe? Maybe. Delete. And of course, exit. So when we're done, that's essentially what our file menu is going to look like. What's up, Tom Bomb? And we're just designing the graphic user interface for the command line program we wrote earlier. Right now we're in the planning stages of it. And we got a little bit of it created here. But we haven't gotten real far. You're a bit stuck on Python, huh? Well, what's your question? Let's see if we can help you out. So you're looking at the possibility of shortening up your if commands, so there isn't like now, do you mean so that there isn't like if this then this then, or if this or this or this or this or this else, or is it just if and then a whole bunch of stuff and then at the very bottom of that else? If, then a whole bunch of stuff, and then an else. Okay. Yeah. Basically what you're talking about, I think, if I understand you correctly, is, alright, so you have if some condition happens. Bunch of stuff, 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 bunch of stuff. This goes on for a long while. And then way down here, you'll have like an else that handles it. Like if that first condition wasn't true. And you're feeling like that gets a little bit far away, right? And it's a little hard to keep track of all that. I would take as much of this stuff that you have in this part here and throw it in a function. Alright, so what you would do is you would have, and you'll see this in some of the, well here, let me show you here. Open, let's see. Backup card's 1. Why is it got a 1 there? Alright. This is just some code that I wrote. Don't get too bogged down by all this, but as you can see here, I have some stuff, if, blah, 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 then a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I could write a function, we'll just put it right here. I could go def main. There we go. And I could literally take all of this, put it in my main function, whoop, there we go. Boom. See, it still does exactly the same thing it did. All I did was I took that huge, long, like, CVS receipt of a block statement, and I threw it into its own function. Now, you might want to break up that block into several functions and just run them in sequence, depending upon what each, like, section of it is trying to do. Like, if you have something that's, you know, oh, first it opens a file, then it writes to the file, then it closes the file. Make each of those separate functions, and then just run them in sequence. Not exactly sure what you're specifically trying to do with your application, but, like, break it up into functions, you know? There's no reason for a big ol' CVS grocery list looking kind of code block if you can break that up. And you might find a lot of the code is just reusable. And if it's reusable, it should be a function. So, yeah, do that. It'll definitely put your else's a lot closer to your ifs and make that whole part a lot easier to track. A whole lot easier to track. So yeah, thanks for the question. Glad I could help you out with that. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. This is just what I do here. When I'm not screwing around trying to make stuff that may or may not work. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. I can just reopen it. It's fine. It's fine. Alright, so, where was I? Oh yeah, edit file. Or I should say edit menu. We don't want to be typing in such a large font. There we go. Alright, and just like we designed our file menu, we're going to do the same thing here with edit. And now I do need idle back for my I need my scripts back. Open. Specifically, I need our Cruddy Buddy reopened. Where did I put that? There we go. Cruddy Buddy! Okay. So what else did we have this thing doing? Okay, so we have the add new record, update selected record, delete record. We also want to make these options of the edit menu. Mostly because that would just make sense, right? Of course. Where did I put that now? Ah, here we go. Edit menu. I can make that a little smaller. That doesn't need to be quite so big. So we're going to go with an add option. Which should just one-to-one open up the same thing. If you were declaring a function for a login, yes, you would just do def login. 1F though, not 2. Go with update. Now our update record. See, I think I may want to remove this part here and just put that in the dialog box for updating a record. Yeah, I think we're gonna want to do that. So we're gonna get rid of this. And also, our list box should allow us to be able to select records as well if we're using a list box here. But because the list box is giving us the weird text formatting issue where our tab things aren't showing up, we may just go to a label there. Make this a scrollable box. Make the update dialog box have the record selector. And then we would use that same kind of selector option with the dialog box for deleting a selected record. So I think that would work. And we're also going to want to do this. And create ourselves an exit button. That might be a bit of a large exit button. Okay. So we have a lot of our planning here is already completed. Let's see, what are we looking at here? We got our top level. We have our add record. We have our creating a new file. We have our file menu. We already have the open part figured out. Saving we'll just rerun our action from the command line cruddy buddy, where it takes that file data that we have and rewrites it. You know, whatever updates get flushed to the actual file on the file system. So that's already handled. We need to create a delete. Need to create a delete file. Well, no, we really just need a confirmation box for that. So if you go delete, it'll be deleting whatever the selected file is. If you haven't opened anything, we can have that delete grayed out because it shouldn't be available to delete nothing. But once you've loaded a file in, going file, delete, it'll ask, are you sure you want to delete this file? You click yes or cancel. So we got that. That's not a thing we need to create entirely because that's just a dialog box. Edit. Add record. We're using that same add new record as here. Update. Delete. So update and delete are pretty much the only ones we have to do, and our update is going to be similar to the add record, except these will already be populated with the information that's there, because the record already exists. So we may even be able to reuse that same window. Right? That makes sense. Yeah, we can do that. And then, oh. Ah. Oh, we need our record selector. That's what we need. So yes, we do want to create a new window here. And we're gonna do this we're gonna draw this out in Paint. Alright, what time are we getting to? 11. It's about 11:15. Okay. I think we have time to finish designing our app here. I am calling the stream today a little short. My sinuses are going absolutely haywire. It's doing the thing again. It's doing the thing again. Why? Because I didn't select box. You know what? Let's just start with a solid color to begin with, and I ain't gotta fill it like I keep having to do. It's okay. Sure. That totally worked. It totally worked. All right, here we go. We also don't need that to be 36. We can bring that down. It would help if we weren't typing the same color as the background. There we go. Update record. Alright, so what we would want to do here is we would have select record. We would probably do a drop-down box because the number of records should already be known. I'm pretty sure we can do a drop-down box in Python. Pretty sure. Otherwise, I know we can do a selector box. I don't know if it's drop down, but we can do a selector box. And then we would want a frame here. And this inside this frame it would populate with the data that already exists for the record. There we go. Alright, and then, of course, down here we would have our submit button. Obviously, we will be tinkering with these proportions as we build the actual thing, but this gives us an idea of what the app should look like when we're done. Okay, so we have our update. We have our add new. We need our delete. Now, I would like the delete to look very much the same as our update record, with some significant visual differences. Oh, that symbol. System. Where'd it go? There we go. And 14. Delete. Record. And then let's see here. Helps if I can spell. Another similar drop down as before. Alright, and then below that we'll have another frame. populate this with a loop so that it has the right number of labels and entry boxes. Although, instead of entry boxes, we might... What do you use to close Python? Or dose Python? My text window is a little weird. If you're talking about closing Python, let's see here. We use a couple different forms. We sometimes go with the sys.exit. Otherwise, we just go with the simple exit. Depends on whether or not we feel like importing this module. Alright, so oh, what do I use to edit my code? Well, normally I'm not using I'm not normally using idle, but for this tutorial I'm using idle because it's what comes with Python, and I don't want to have to walk users through like how to choose a proper IDE for their needs, because there's just so many out there and everybody likes something different. And my recommendation is focus on learning the code and then figure out which IDE fits you personally. As far as which one I use myself, I've been a big fan of this one for a while. It's just the regular old Visual Studio Code from Microsoft. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but PyCharm is so much better, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for Python, but I don't just code in Python. I'm coding in JavaScript, I'm making websites, you know, I'm doing all kinds of different stuff. And Visual Studio Code, it's very lightweight, it's very fast. It allows me to basically tie in everything that I'm doing all at once. I can code in C on this puppy, I can code in Python, I can code in JavaScript. So that's why I like it. Also, the extensions are very easy to manage, so like, you know, linting for Python and things like that are very easy to add in. And you don't have all the extra overhead of stuff you don't need. And, you know, you don't have to add a different editor if you decide, you know, you want to do Ruby or something. You can add Ruby to this. Do I recommend Visual Studio Code? I recommend Visual Studio Code if you're like me and you code in just everything all the time. I do a lot of web development, and I like Visual Studio Code specifically for web development because one, it's actually just really excellent to look at. Let me see here. See if I can find a bit of code to show you what it looks like in here. I don't think I have any of my website code handy, but we can load up one of these Python projects that we're working on here. Alright. I must not have installed those yet. Okay, there we go. So let's get back to our code here. It integrates really well with GitHub and stuff like that. But look at this. Look at this code. Now the font I'm using here, if I changed it, it should be... I'm trying to show a thing, okay? Calm down, software. The font that I use here is Hex. No, Hack. It's a font specifically to make your code look good, because you're going to be looking at your code a lot. You want it to not be straining your eyes. You want it to be easy to read, and in my opinion, it's very elegant, very beautiful to look at. The way Visual Studio Code does a lot of its color coding for, like, you know, keywords and stuff. Excellent color usage for that. Makes things really stand out when they need to stand out, but it isn't, again, straining on the eyes, because the people developing this, they're coders. They know what you want to see. I mean, I know the people developing PyCharm and all those other ones are as well, but I feel like with Visual Studio Code, they just do a slightly better job. But, honestly, choosing between one or the other, it is all just personal preference. You could literally write all of your code in Notepad, and it will do the same thing. It's just what you prefer. And with Visual Studio Code, I'm getting everything that I prefer, because it handles it all nice and neatly, and I love the way it looks. I absolutely love how simple all of this is. Not a whole lot of distraction here. I don't have a big old toolbar ribbon across the top here that's got a bunch of nonsense that I'm not going to need for half of what I'm doing. Just simple menu, simple stuff here. Very easy to use. Has a lot of updates though. Like, practically every time I'm opening this thing up, it wants to install another update. So, there is that. But even that's not too terrible. Getting set up with your own custom fonts and whatnot's pretty easy to do as well. Yeah, I definitely recommend Visual Studio Code if you haven't settled on something, because it's basically like typing everything in Notepad, except with the enhancements that people usually look for in an IDE, like your auto-completion for keywords and things like that. It detects practically every language that you want to type in, so if you wanted to do a C project, it'll be like, oh hey, this looks like a C program, and like you saw there. Oh, you're just using Python? Yeah. But like what you saw there, it automatically detected that it was a Python program and installed the extensions for me. Just asked me if that's the thing I wanted it to do. Just clicked a yes, and boom, did it. Done. Yeah, so I do recommend Visual Studio Code if you haven't decided on something else. If you don't have your heart set on something that you just like more. But you can type code in anything. Any text editor is fine, as long as it lets you save it as a like a UTF-8 encoded text file. Your interpreter should be able to read it just fine. I've coded from the command line before without an IDE, just, you know, basically, you know, creating a text file in place using the tools available at the command line before. That's fun. I've written entire websites using just Notepad. And I mean Notepad. the text editor that comes with every Windows program. I've written extremely complicated programs using just that. I've used idle to create stuff. I've used Jupyter notebooks. I don't know if you're familiar with Jupyter. It's a Python sort of it's a Python environment, really, more than an IDE. But one of the Python boot camps that I tried out, they used Jupyter to run the example code in, so I messed around in that for a while. Yeah. I've basically coded it every way you possibly can think of, and for my money, Visual Studio Code, probably one of the more user-friendly ways to do it. Definitely one of the better looking ways to do it. But you know, feel free to try out things like Sublime, PyCharm, various other ones out there exist. Code Blocks, if I remember right, is one, if they're even still around. Find the one that you feel comfortable with, and you know, stick with it, or you know, don't stick with it. Try them all. Eventually, you'll find one that works for you. And yeah, doesn't really matter what you use to code, just so long as you get your code written. That's the important part. Let's see. We have our... What is this here? The delete record, okay. And then, just like before, when we're deleting when we're writing a file, we want to do the whole warning. Give the user some kind of little warning there, just to let them know that, hey, if you delete this, there is no undo button. It will just be deleted and you'll be done with it. Don't cry to us if you screw up. That kind of thing. After all, we might be making this for us, but we don't know if we're going to be the only end user who ever uses it. I mean, we might distribute this, you know, through GitHub or something. Put it on the internet. Let other people give it a try. Who knows? Now, the whole reason we go through the hassle of populating this frame with the record information is just to ensure that our user has selected the correct record before they hit that delete button. We may also want to do another one of these. You know, a little checkbox. If they don't check the box, the delete record button just closes the window without removing the record. That kind of thing. We could also make this a pop-up dialog confirmation after they hit the delete record, rather than a checkbox. Those are still options on the table, but anyway, that, I think, is everything we needed to design. As I said before, you could do this in all kinds of different complicated photo software suites like Adobe if you wanted to, but you really don't need to. You really don't need a whole bunch of different complicated software when you can use what's readily available. Because designing a user interface, it's not that hard. It really isn't. It's just common sense. Think to yourself, what have you seen before? Have you seen something like this before? Have you know, you've seen buttons, you've seen menus. Do you want your app to have buttons? Do you want your app to have menus? Do you want your app to have both? And then you design it, and you make it. And as we've seen from our very weird example thing here, alright, we know how to make buttons that do stuff. We know how to make radio buttons, check buttons, labels that are interactive. We know how to make menus. We know how to attach functions to all of these things. So, it's just a matter of putting it together at this point. Now, as I said at the top of this, I'm probably cutting this short because my sinuses are going crazy. I do wish we had gotten a bit more accomplished today, but we got accomplished what we set out to do, which was designing the app and how we want to do it. We still haven't settled on exactly how we're doing this part here, but I think, considering that we no longer need to use this box to select things, and we're having issues with the spacing, I might just revert to using a label here. Just a really big label, have it print all the records. Oh, tell me about it, just terrible. You want to see something that's been taking me years? I just had this one open, actually. I was showing this to... Okay, this is part of a program that has been taking me forever. Forever. I'm trying to make my own card games and casino games software suite. We're talking blackjack, poker, roulette, craps, all of them. This module is just for the deck of cards. Just handles the creation of a deck and assigning values to cards as objects within the program. It doesn't handle betting. It doesn't handle the rules of play for various games at all. This is just one module. The way this works is we have a card object. I extend that card object to make playing cards. I also extend that card object again to make tarot cards, because I figure if I'm going to make a deck of cards, I'm going to make this thing so that it's useful in other ways, because, like, I've had to write this 3 or 4 different times. Most recently, I had it written out on my tablet, which is where I was developing it. And then my tablet just took a crap and decided that all of the stuff that I had on the memory card was going to be inaccessible from then on. And I hadn't backed this up to the cloud or anything. This one now is backed up to the cloud because I learned my lesson. So if my tablet does decide to try to, you know, tank my whole project, I have this part backed up. But anyway, what this one does, and this is just test output for the module itself. And what it's doing here is we have some true-false stuff here. Oop, that's the wrong one. Where is my... Here we go. What that's demonstrating is tests for if the card's been dealt and if it's been discarded. What is going on here? Ah, here we go. I'm trying to drag things through my OBS. Ugh, I'm zonked. Okay. Here we go. I have methods to test if a card's been dealt out of a deck, so it doesn't get dealt out of a deck again. So you don't wind up with, like, 2 aces of spades out of the same 52 cards. You can make decks that are going to be, like, you know, like 6 regular decks. So if you're playing blackjack, you could play blackjack with, like, 6 decks. And every ace of spades in there will be its own ace of spades, but it will still be able to tell if it's dealt out that same ace of spades already, so it doesn't re-deal the same card twice. Let's see here. What else is it doing? Oh, discarding. So if you want to be able to return the card to the deck, or if you want to take the card out of play, the deck will be able to tell if a card has been discarded, so that on the next time that it shuffles, it gets added back into the deck. If a card has not been discarded, it does not get added back into the deck when you shuffle. This adds in an option to cheat. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Gun. It was a cowboy game for GameCube, PlayStation, PC, and I believe Xbox. It had in it a poker program where you'd play against like 4 NPCs, and between rounds you could cheat by hanging onto a card from the last hand. This would allow us to do something like that, because if the card doesn't get discarded, you're still holding it. After that, I have it just pull out any 2 random cards, one from the regular deck of cards, one from the tarot deck. And then here, I have it run through and literally deal out every card until it runs out of cards. Right here. So there should not be any repeats in here. It should just be all 52 cards from the deck. And then I do the same thing here with the tarot deck, which is 78 cards. No repeats. Just boom, 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 boom. That's all just test output that I could use to run this module. This module is not intended to be a standalone thing. This is something that's going to be incorporated into a user interface that also has modules that handle rules for blackjack, rules for poker, other modules that handle how betting works, things like that. And when it's all said and done, it's going to be a poker game, a blackjack game, a roulette game, all of this under just one big banner of, hey, you know, let's play casino games. So yeah, how long have I been working on this? Quite a while. Quite a while. The idea of doing this game came to me about 10 years ago. I probably truly got started on it about 8 years ago. I'm still trying to figure out all of the things I want everything to be able to do. I don't even have the roulette wheel module on this. That's still on my tablet. I really gotta back that up to the cloud. Otherwise, I'm going to regret that. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, it's taken a while, but at some point, I will have a finished product. Will it be popular? Will it make me rich and famous? Probably not. I mean, it's probably going to be something I release for free on GitHub, but it'll be something that I did, something that I can be proud of. In the meantime, I've been working on a lot of other stuff. Things like this, where I teach people how to do Python code. For a few years there, I was working with Free Code Camp, teaching people about just coding in general, mostly aimed at web development. But I fielded a lot of questions on Python while I was a moderator for their Free Code Camp Earth group. That was a lot of fun. Took a I gave coding a backseat while I focused on a couple other things, because programming's not the only thing I'm doing. I am not a professional programmer. I have never been like working for Google or anything like that kind of programmer. I have been paid for programming work that I've done for small businesses, doing like custom inventory software and things like that. But as far as like doing this professionally regularly, no. I usually am doing something else like telemarketing or whatnot in the meantime. Currently, I'm working on putting together some kind of magic act and hypnosis show, and I want to start doing hypnotherapy for people online, doing like video sessions and stuff, because you can hypnotize people over video chat. It's a thing. I've done it before. I know, kind of weird to go from, oh, I'm developing software, to I'm gonna hypnotize people. Like, they're quite a ways away from each other as far as interests go, but I've never been one to just settle on like one focus and like be fine with that, which is why my stream is, you know, oh, here's how to code in Python, and let's go play Breath of the Wild, and you know, things like that, and oh, here's a public domain horror movie every week, you know, wide variety of interests. And I like to explore a lot of different things. I have the freedom to do that. I currently am self-employed, which is awesome. Gives me a lot of opportunity to explore a lot of these interests and see what I can do with them. And this Twitch channel thing is an experiment. I figured I'd use it to help people learn how to do some Python if they wanted to, not on a professional level, but on a whole, hey, you know, maybe I could make myself a utility to do the thing I'm trying to do, instead of find somebody else who's already written something similar. I could just make it myself, kind of thing. Because you can make this stuff yourself. Programs are not, you know, magical, mysterious boxes that just appear on your screen. Somebody wrote those, and you can write those. It's not that hard. But, you know, I'm trying to demystify some of that stuff for people here. Also, you know, playing video games on the internet for other people. I play a lot of video games. I love video games. Grew up playing video games. I'm almost 40 and I still love video games. It's a way I connect with my kid. It's a way I've connected with other people. A lot of my friends are just gamers. And I figure, you know, I could play video games on the internet. I don't really care if it makes me famous or rich or anything like that, but if there's a chance in it and people enjoy watching me play, why not? Why not? If nobody enjoys watching me play, who cares? It's not costing me a thing. I'm just playing video games like I play video games and putting it on the internet for other people to enjoy, if they should choose to do so. So yeah. Like, that's basically how I'm running this channel. I just, you know, explore various things I like and, you know, share them with people who might take an interest in them. But anyway, I am calling it a day right here for now. We've got our app designed. We haven't got it fully coded out yet, but we will. Probably next week, because, let's see, the rest of this week, my son will be off for Thanksgiving, so we're probably going to just be playing a lot of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because I need to play something that's, you know, family friendly. Next week, I am hoping to start another little slightly more mature title, because he'll be back in school, so I'll be able to bring you something like Resident Evil or something. I haven't quite decided yet what that's gonna be, but on the coding days we will finish out our graphic user interface, get that tested out, and then when we're satisfied with that, we'll start learning about sockets, be able to take this crazy project and make something that can communicate with other computers across the internet. You'll be able to send your file from one program on your computer to another program on a friend's computer, and yeah, you'll be able to have the start of what I'm hoping is going to be an online RPG. Now, don't quote me, that's a huge undertaking. That's another one of those projects that, you know, when you hear about developers working on those for years and years and years, it's a big team doing it, and like, you know, like Elder Scrolls or World of Warcraft or something like that. They spend years working on this stuff to bring you the experience that that you get when you play those games. The experience I'm shooting for here is going to be basically a lo-fi 16-bit, like, super retro-looking RPG that just happens to have online capability. So you can play with friends. You'll be able to connect to a server. That server will probably be hosted either on my website, or I'll share the script so you can host it yourself and basically have old-fashioned LAN parties. But yeah, that's what I'm shooting for with all this. But to get there, we have to learn sockets for online development, be able to share data back and forth between users over a network, and Pygame, which is going to be our first actual external module that I'm going to have to walk people through how to install. We've avoided doing that with Kyvie or other graphic user interface modules, and we've just been using tkinter for our graphic user interface because it's pre-packaged with Python, nothing extra to install. Well, when we get to Pygame, that's when you're going to start learning about virtual environments, how to install these other modules, how to maintain those working environments so you're not constantly going, oh, well, now this is out of date. I've been developing this for, 16 months, and they've updated it now, so now I have to rewrite all of my code and blah blah blah. No, there won't be any of that. We're going to figure out how to handle that appropriately from the beginning. I'm also probably going to show you all how to use GitHub and repositories and Git on your computer so that you can upload your programs easily to your repository so that you can share it with other people. And when we get to that, y'all be able to have your say on how this game gets built. If there's a feature you want to see, you'll be able to take the code we're writing, add your own bit to it, send it back to us, and we'll be able to say, hey, that's cool, we'll add that. Yeah, we'll approve that. That change gets added in. Your code that you wrote becomes a part of our program. Or we'll be like, no, that's dumb. That introduces, all kinds of issues here, here, and here, and we'll kick it back to you to maybe see if you want to try another go at it. You'll get a feel for what it's like to work on an open source project. If you choose to follow along, if you choose to join in. All of that's optional. Nobody's required to do anything. It'll be fun, though. It will be fun. And in the end, I'm hoping to be able to say I've released my first actual playable major project game. So, well, hey, keep following along, and like all the information, I'll make it part of the stream. You'll know where the repositories are. You'll want to get yourself set up with a GitHub account. That's pretty standard for most coders, though. Pretty easy to do if you don't have one. If you do have one, somewhere, either in my About Me on my Twitch channel or on my website or somewhere, I do have a link to my repositories. There will be a new one that'll be started for this game project, and yeah, I'll walk you through how to clone it, how to submit changes, how to be an active participant. So anyone who's following this, anyone who's watching this, will be able to do that, and they'll be able to be an active part of this. And I'm hoping to actually publish this game. Oh, that's fine. Like, this game is not going to be like a super complicated, like, I mean, we're not going for like World of Warcraft or Grand Theft Auto or something like that. We're going for like the original Final Fantasy. If you've ever seen that for like Nintendo, where it's just there's a character running around on an overworld screen, side view of him, just kind of marching along, and then it goes into a battle, and there's some turn-based combat and stuff. I'll walk you through how we're going to be handling a lot of that. I have ideas for things I'm going to be adding into this, like most online multiplayer RPGs, you can't win them. There's no real end. Well, with this one, there is going to be an objective for the main story, and it's going to be ridiculous, because a lot of this game that I'm thinking of doing, I have ideas, and they're all ridiculous. Like, I want to make it so that in order to win the game, and yes, there will be an achievement for winning the game, you simply just make lemon tea. That's it. The whole rest of the game is side quest. All the dungeons that you can explore, all the monsters you kill, the bosses you fight, all of that, side quest. It's all side quest. All the stuff that would normally be like part of the main quest is all side quest. The main quest is just making lemon tea. Something that would barely pass as a tutorial or a side quest thing. That's going to be our main objective for the game. I also want to do something crazy. I want to add roles that aren't specific to like the dungeon dungeon party aspect of it. So if you want to play the game and never have to go into a dungeon, never have to really complete one of those quests or whatever, you could choose to be a banker. You could choose to be a merchant. You could choose to work in a blacksmith forge or a stable, and you just do tasks that are relevant to your job. And your character has a, has a day that he goes through where he gets up, he goes to work, does some stuff for, some NPCs and some actual players coming into his shop. At the end of the day, he closes up shop and he goes home, And that's going to be alongside, other people who are playing the game as, merchants and bankers, but also dungeoneers, explorers, adventurers, monster fighters, all kinds of stuff. And all of it's going to be rendered in beautiful, simple, glorious 16-bit, really, really retro style graphics. Going to be a lot of text boxes popping up, explaining what's going on and doing dialogue that way. Probably going to have to implement some kind of chat system so that you can communicate with other players. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the end goal with this whole Murph Codes Python segment that I'm doing. But before we get there, we're going to get through the tutorial on how to do Python, how to work with the various modules I want to be using with this, how to work with an open source project so everybody can participate. It'll be quite a ways before we actually get to making the game. I'm hoping we get started by summer, but we got a few things we got to get through before we get there. That is, like you said, one of the more frustrating things about a code project is just how long it can take. And with this one, in particular, we're starting way at the beginning. We're starting at the whole, I don't even know how to write a program, and we're gonna get to, okay, I've just built a game, and we're gonna cover the whole gamut from A to B, everything in between, and yeah, and I know how to code in Python, so it's not like we're starting from nothing. You're not watching me learn how, you're just being taught by me how so that you can participate later. But anyway, as I said, I'm calling it short here because my sinuses are killing me. I gotta do something about that. Let's see, what is today? Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow there's nothing, but on Thursday there will be a Murph Plays Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There might be a random stream either later tonight or tomorrow. That's more of that. I do still do Murph Plays. In addition to the scheduled times, I do random drop-ins where I just pick up and play. Follow to be notified when that's happening, if it's a thing you want to follow. Next week, new games. This Saturday, some public domain horror movie. I haven't decided which one yet. We did The Brain That Wouldn't Die last week, which was a horrible movie, but still a fun thing to watch. Not sure what I want to watch this next one. I'll find something good though. But anyway, thank you all for hanging out. Thank you all for watching. And follow to find out when I'm live. I do follow back, so if feel free to follow if you just want to add one to your account. Join the Discord if you want to shout at my happy face at any time. I sometimes check that. Pretty sure. You can read my rantings and ravings at my website there. not a whole lot going on there, but there is a new article I put up today about something else I'm working on, which will be bringing more content to my channel. So feel free to check that out if you're interested in stuff like that. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day.